We don't want to know. We want the question to be an honest question.
Right.
So that's a way of saying, empathy again, right? I'm not here to, tell Ansh, "Arey yaar, tune aisa question kyun pucha?" I don't want to know that answer. You ask the question, it's a genuine question, I'll answer it.
Right.
So we put up every question and we answer it during the town hall.
Okay.
So things like that, you have to start when you are becoming larger and larger. It's more difficult to do direct outreaches,
right?
But you have to do one-to-many mass outreaches, but practice this and try and make the communication two-way as much as possible. Why are we asking them to ask a question?
Welcome to the 32nd IMA International Management Conclave. I am here with Mr. Srikanth Iyer, the founder of HomeLane. Welcome, sir. It's great to be here with you.
Oh, no, thank you for inviting me. Great to be here too.
Thank you, sir. So I'll just be asking you a few questions to learn about your journey, experiences, and gain some valuable insights. So my first question to you would be, you started your career in the early 90s, working with computer appliances, and then from there now you're a founder of a home interior design company which is using tech to advance the industry. So what I want to ask you is, how have you navigated through these various industries throughout the decades, and how have you identified the right opportunities at the right time?
Sure. So I'll answer that in two parts. One is for me. As soon as I finished my postgrad, I got a job into Wipro. And in the early 90s, getting a job in Infosys or Wipro or TCS was like a godsend. So I joined and I quit in 3 months. That time, it was an easy decision for me in my mind because simple. They used to pay me 4,500 rupees ka salary. And like any person who knows Dhanda, I said, yeah, if I can do something else which can give me much more than this. And at that point in time, I identified an opportunity in assembling and selling computers, which was very much in demand because the branded computers were very expensive. So I saw a consumer demand at that point in time where I said, मैं अगर 2 कंप्यूटर भी 1 महीने में बेच दूं, तो मैं उससे ज़्यादा सैलरी कमा लूंगा, तो मैं किसी और के लिए काम क्यों करूं, मैं खुद के लिए करता हूं. That's how I started. Very short-sighted in a way, but I'm glad I did because you know how it is, right? The longer you take to make that jump, the tougher that jump is, and the distance also appears to be more. So you're scared to make the jump in a way, right?
Very true.
So that's how I began. Post that, it's always been a question of using technology to either disrupt an industry or to disrupt consumer behavior, which is behaving in a certain way in the industry. So, for example, if I take HomeLane, my simple insight was when a consumer buys a house, especially a new house, then they are stuck with the unorganized segment, carpenters and contractors. They don't get a very good experience with them. Can I build a brand which can actually give them a better experience, better predictability, better quality at a reasonable price? That was the insight and felt like there was an opportunity there. I met quite a few customers, prospects. I met quite a few builders, etc. Did some primary research. And then I said, okay, let me then double down and try to build this brand on my own. And that's how HomeLane started.
So you had a very daring journey. Obviously, it took a lot of risk-taking, and at that time, you did not know whether it would turn out to be successful. So it's amazing that you were able to take those risks. What I want to know more about your journey and about your thought processes when it comes to the strategies that you implement to make your businesses successful. We all know that technology is at the forefront of your current business, and I think any new startup that is coming in or any business that is transforming currently, technology has to be at the forefront of that. I want to know, how do you see technology further advancing these kind of businesses, and what role humans would play along with technology, and how do you see what gives you value in your current employees that even with as technology is advancing, those employees cannot be replaced. The reason I ask is because, a lot of employees, even somebody like me, I feel like, what can I do? What kind of skills can I gain that no matter how technology advances, I don't want to lose my value in my company. So what are the skills that you value that no matter how technology advances, with AI, robotics and many other things, what skills can we gain, or what skills do you value in other employees that make them a valuable asset to you regardless of the technological advancements that are happening?
So some things are not going to change very fast, right? Some things are going to remain constant. And let me just take one point in that. Customers want to be heard. अच्छा मुझे ये वाला ग्रीन पसंद है, वो उसके साथ वो वाइट कॉम्बिनेशन मुझे पसंद है, और I want you, if you're the expert and you're advising me as a designer, I want to hear from you what your thoughts are on how my living room should look, because I may not have all the ideas, which is why I'm consulting with you, right? But that they want to talk to another human being because they empathy, they'll get their taste, their budget. They can tell them, "Acha, I can't spend more than this," or whatever it may be. They don't want to necessarily say that to a machine. First of all, I'll give you one other example. So with Gen AI becoming so invasive, actually today, if you give me a floor plan of an apartment, I can give you 5 options of interior plans for that instantly without a human being there.
Right. Yes.
But we are not doing it. I'll tell you why. Because customers will feel cheated. It sounds counterintuitive.
Very true.
वो तो बोलेगा यार आप क्यों चार्ज कर रहे हो 5%? आपने कुछ डाला ही नहीं है. Right. So that's the way, I'll actually tell you one small story which relates to this, okay? There's a real story, by the way. I mean, all of us have heard A.R. Rahman's music, right? And you know that he made the music for Subhash Ghai's movie Tal long ago.
Okay, right.
So story goes that he gave him a situation and he said, I want a song for the situation. And I believe A.R. Rahman composed the song in 10 minutes flat.
Okay.
And gave him a fantastic sounding song. But Subhash Ghai felt cheated. He said, मैं आपको इतना पैसा दे रहा हूँ.
Right.
आपने 10 मिनट में कैसे खत्म कर दिया? ना ये तो नहीं चीटिंग है. आप फिर से बनाओ. कुछ और बनाओ. Okay? Now, the same song has come in Tamasha. And it's a super hit song.
Right.
And he's actually reused exactly the same song.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, Subhash Ghai felt that मैं इतना पैसा दे रहा हूँ, so you have to work harder so that and earn your money, right? It's human psychology.
Yes.
So it's actually very similar.
Right.
So here, when a customer is coming to our website and saying, अच्छा, इसने मतलब 30 seconds में 5 plan दे दिया, इसने काम ही नहीं किया इसने तो, so it's a bit of that. So I think in areas where there is customer interaction, deep customer interaction, where you also need to make qualitative calls.
Right.
Right? You're talking to the customer, you understand, okay, now you're talking to me, Shrikant Iyer likes jeans, whatever, right? He must have kids who are so certain age, so this must be his lifestyle. Whatever, right? That you cannot get a machine yet to get all of it, empathize and have a meaningful conversation. It will happen someday, but it's not going to happen in a hurry. So that's the area I would say that today's youngsters need to focus on.
Makes sense, sir. So, when it comes to running a business, when it comes to being a leader of your people, of your team, and this is not the first business that you've started others. So you've been a leader for quite a long time in your career. What I want to know from you is, I'm sure a lot of people would ask you, what you think the meaning of leadership is and how it differs from a manager, how a leader is different from a manager. What I want to know from you is, how has the definition of a leader, of a good leader, evolved for you personally over time when you started your career by with computer appliances early in the 1900s, like 1990s. From then till now, how do you think your definition of leadership has changed, and how do you think you have evolved as a leader through these decades? And what advice could you give to somebody like me who is an up-and-coming leader, who I want to be a great leader for my team and for my company, for all my employees? So how has it evolved over time for you, and where do you think it's going from here?
Sure. So actually, my first maybe 5 to 10 years, I never really thought so much about leadership and things like that, because it was a small team. My first business, the total team strength was 15 people, 1-5. And so I didn't have to do much, but subconsciously I had a responsibility, which was, there were some ground rules which I practiced myself. I would never ever allow anybody either either to consume alcohol or even smoke in the office premises. Sounds like a very simple rule, but it's very important, because see, I myself was 23 years old and all my guys were either around the 23-year-old age, right? So all of us were young and foolish, right? So foolish people will, at that age you will do. If you don't do foolish thing, there's a problem.
Very true.
So,
very true.
But you still need to set an example. But so at that point in time, it's actually easier, because you are the brand. You are the walking, talking example of what you want an ideal employee of yours to be. So you please practice what you preach. That was really the way that I thought about it. So I would never ever encourage any of the behaviors. I'm just giving you again one example, but also, what's the ethical code that you want to practice? If your employees will know if you are not being ethically right, they will know. Whether the customer knows or not, your employees will surely know, right? But so do they know that you will not cross a line, etc., etc., etc. Those are the ones. So you become kind of the brand. But then I realized in my other businesses, as I kept growing, and in my last business in EdTech, at peak I had about 1,500 people. I realized that there's no way that I can reach out and speak, in a close manner with as many people. Then what happens? Then you need to set some org principles, org values. Those are close to your heart.
Right.
Let me tell you some org principles and org values which are of Homelane today, which I practice very much. Trust and transparency is a very big value for us. Empathy is a very big value for us. Customer centricity is a big value. Collaboration is a very big value. Frugality is a big value for us. So it may sound again, frugality kaise? But we wear it on our sleeve. We like to do things more efficiently. We are proud of it. Let them call us jugadu or whatever, but it doesn't matter.
Right.
Frugality is a value for us. The same way, trust and transparency. So how do I practice now trust and transparency? In every single meeting, we make sure that we talk about it and we show examples of what trust and transparency means. Second, we walk the talk, which means that, for example, we have a town hall for all. Right now, I have about 3,000 people in the company. For all our people, we have a town hall every 3 months.
Okay.
We present to them almost all the slides that we use for a board meeting. Almost all the slides.
Okay.
So that way, I'm being 100% transparent with all the people. It's up to them to repay a trust and obviously not discuss it outside. Till now, we have not had any first thing, right? Second, again, in transparency, I can tell you, we ask them to ask questions during the town hall. Meaning, you can post, if you are working for Homelane, you can post a question. But because we don't want you to feel embarrassed or don't want you to be hesitant, the question is posted anonymously. We don't know who's posted the question.
Right.
We don't want to know. We want the question to be an honest question.
Right.
So that's a way of saying, empathy again, right? I'm not here to, tell Ansh, "Arey yaar, tune aisa question kyun pucha?" I don't want to know that Ansh has asked. You ask the question, it's a genuine question, I'll answer it.
Right.
So we put up every question and we answer it during the town hall.
Okay.
So things like that, you have to start when you are becoming larger and larger. It's more difficult to do direct outreaches.
Right.
But you have to do one-to-many mass outreaches, but practice this and try and make the communication two-way as much as possible. Why are we asking them to ask a question? Because otherwise, it's just me broadcasting and then everybody else one-way communication.
Right.
We don't want that. We want it to be as much two-way as possible. And we want the question to be genuine.
Yes.
If I tell you, Ansh, I know you're asking me the question, now you ask. It used to happen.
Yeah.
And we were 100, 200 people in Homelane. We used to stand up and have stand up a town hall. Just stand up and do a town hall. People never used to ask questions because I can see everybody, right? I know who's asking the question. And then we said, no, let's just make this anonymous. And the number of questions went through the roof. So things like that.
Makes sense.
Those are the ones that you develop over time, and you kind of change as per how your organization is changing.
Right.
The leadership qualities you need to exhibit as a 50 people company is very different from
Yes.
500 is very different from 5,000.
Right.
That's really what I mean.
So you talked a lot about company culture. You talked a lot about organizational values. Just to expand on this a little bit and to get a little more insights on, how, because on retaining good employees is what I want to get to, because I think you would agree with me when I say that, you cannot build a business, you cannot grow a business unless you have a very strong team around you, and unless you can have good people that you can attract and good people that you can retain once you do attract them. So I just want to know a couple of tips and tricks from you that you have used in your journey in the multiple companies that you have founded and run. How do you attract good talent? And then once you do get good talent in such a competitive environment and such a competitive landscape in India, in the startup community, and I think in every industry now, I don't think there's a single industry which does not have competition. Fierce competition. I just want to know, how do you retain the good talent and how do you attract the good talent?
So, talking about attracting good talent, typically what I like to do is I like to hire people and give them 2x more responsibility than they had in their last role.
Okay.
So, and if somebody is excited about that, I love it. Because if you are doing something today and you're managing, let's say, Indore, and now you're going to be managing all of MP, and in a similar kind of a business, and you're excited about it, or maybe even all of West, then that is going to be something that's exciting for you, and
Right.
and I think is the right way to go, because you should bet on potentially good people.
Right.
So that's one. First of all, give them more than what they were doing in the last role. Second, it should not be an environment where they look over their shoulder every 5 minutes. My style, everybody's style is different. My style is zero micromanagement.
Okay.
Because if you trust the person and he can do this, then you set the rules, do's and don'ts, your targets, your KRAs, your KPIs, whatever you want to call it, and let them loose. Let them go and find the way to get stuff done. I think that's the second rule that I follow. If they're really talented, they will come out trumps. If they're not, then they were never meant to be. That's okay. But the best chance that they have is not you, by you not micromanaging them. So that's what that's one big thing that I learned. How do I retain talent? There are many mechanisms. I use a lot of ESOPs. So we give them ownership of the company. Even if a person owns 10 shares in the company, it's that sense of ownership, it's that sense of belonging, etc., which is very, very important. And I believe that top management, if not even middle management, should get ownership of the company. At whatever stage, the stake does not matter. It's a concept of them being owners of the company. That has really helped a lot in retaining people.
Awesome. So, sir, we'll just do a few quick rapid fire questions. We'll just take a minute and you can answer either in one word or one sentence. That's it. So, which entrepreneur do you look up to or has inspired you the most in your career?
Steve Jobs.
If you could acquire or lead one Indian business other than yours, obviously, which company would it be?
Let me think, wait. Atomberg.
Okay. If you weren't in the home interiors industry, what industry would you rather be in right now?
That's not an easy one. I'd probably be a VC because I've been an operator for so long. I've always been thinking that I should go onto the other side, the dark side, and try and help entrepreneurs. So yeah, I'll probably be a VC.
Last question, sir. What skill do you value the most or do you look for the most in candidates that you're hiring regardless of the role?
Perseverance.
Great.
So for me, failed entrepreneurs are way better to hire than only corporate kind of people.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your valuable insights. Thank you so much for being transparent with us and sharing, insights from your journey with us. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for having me.